Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video I'll be giving you a short how-to/tutorial for how to optimize your presets and lineups so that you can do as well as possible in a match. I'll go over the basics of BRs, although I do have separate videos going over BR and presets in much more detail linked below, crews, and how to make it so that your lineup is built to win. With the exception of Air RB, this video should pretty much be able to apply to every single game mode. Remember, please like and subscribe because I come out with content all the time, but without further ado, let's get into the video. So first and foremost, let's just get BR out of the way and how it affects your lineup. So again, I will have those more in-depth videos linked below, but the matches that you get placed into are basically going to be determined by the BR or battle rating of the vehicle that you have that's highest, whether it's air, ground, or naval, arcade, realistic, or sim. So for example, if the 10.0 BR IPM1 is my top vehicle in ground RB, and I have the 11.0 BR F5E as my close air support plane, then I'll be placed in a queue for 11.0 BR matches. In much the same way, if I were to use a lineup with 7.0 BR tanks, but want to use a 5.0 BR plane, then the plane will likely be at a disadvantage, being that it's going to be facing largely 7.0 BR enemies, even though your tank lineup will be pretty good at 7.0 BR, assuming again that you have a pretty decent slate of tanks at 7.0 BR. I won't again go into much of this, being that again I do have several videos on the subject of BRs and presets, but you will typically see a swing in BR of up to around 1.0 from your max ranked vehicle in your lineup. So basically, if you have a 4.0 BR tank, for example, and your max BR vehicle is, well, again, that 4.0 BR tank, you can be matched against enemies up to around 5.0 BR or as low as 3.0 BR, although it may very rarely be greater than 1.0 BR difference between you and the top or the lowest BR vehicle in a match. So for example, using that 4.0 BR tank, you could be placed into a 5.3 or somehow even a 5.7. These are ridiculously rare, but I've seen them maybe a few times after a few thousand matches. So just to kind of give you an idea. Also, if you're in a squad with friends, the top BR vehicle in your group will be the BR that your match will be based on, so try to use vehicles as close in BR as possible with your squad mates, just because if your one buddy is using a, for example, 7.0 BR vehicle, and you might have only an M4A1 Sherman, you will not have a good time. So with the basics of BR out of the way, let's just kind of get into how to build your lineup. And to be honest with you, I find it kind of simple. So really, you're going to get probably the best lineups around the thickest part of the tech trees, which is probably for most of the main tech trees. So USA, Germany, USSR, Great Britain, maybe China to, come in the next few years as they build their tech tree. You're really going to want to build horizontally, right? So as you can see here, I've got 6.7, 6.7, 6.7, 6.7, 6.7, whoops, 6.3, but with the 6.7 BR gun, essentially 6.7 and 6.7. Now I realize that most people really only have 4, 5, maybe 6 crew, and this is a bit of an anomaly, but more or less the way that you're going to want to build your lineup is pretty simple. So as you can see, they're almost all 6.7, and the reason being is because, well, as mentioned before, if I have a 7.3 in this lineup, now all of a sudden my World War II tanks, which are excellent, amazing in a down tier, I would say, are going to be facing possibly 8.3 BR vehicles. I mean, let alone 7.3 BR vehicles will annihilate most of these things because they have heat FS and other sort of advanced ammunition that just totally defeats the armor on, let's say, a Tiger II. But again, you're going to want to make sure that everything is more or less about the same BR as best as you can. And now when it comes to actually building your tech tree, you're going to want to go, again, as well as you can, because it's not really perfect, but you're going to want to go horizontal as best as possible. So for example, you have the Leopard A1A1 here. It's an 8.7 BR vehicle. You can theoretically just jump to the Leopard 2K and that'd be fine, right? So you can kill things with the A1A1 when you're at 9.7. But that 1.0 BR jump, especially at this BR, is dramatic. So while the Leopard 2K can defeat rounds at around 9.7, 10.0, even 10.3 BR, give or take, the A1A1 is just totally defenseless. I mean, realistically speaking, most World War II tanks can easily punch through an A1A1. Forget it when you have a tank that can move at 50 or 60 kilometers per hour on the move with a stabilizer and it's played by an expert player. They will annihilate you. you're going to want to make sure that, again, you have horizontal integration as well as possible in your tech tree, and you're going to want to match that up as well as possible down here. And again, this is kind of a weird example, but if you take out 2 of these, so for example, if I were to take out the Tiger 2P, send him to Holiday, and let's just say the Tiger 10.5, right? So now I've got 6 crews. So I've got a light tank, SPAA. SPAA is a bit iffy. I would say to include it just in case, because they cost the lowest amount of spawn points if you're playing realistic, and they at higher BRs, well, at any BR really, you can flank enemy players and actually get a few kills with SPAA. Even at 6.7, I've gotten numerous kills against heavy tanks like I think the T-32 with my Kugelblitz. But that being said, you're going to want to have yourself with a faster tank in your lineup, a medium tank. Medium tanks are all important. If you can, a heavy tank, and really just make sure that you have a broad lineup here. So another way that you can kind of classify it is via gun. So this one has the capability of having a 128mm cannon, right? So this can easily punch through almost any tank in the game, whereas this has the 88, can punch through almost as much, but it's got a much more favorable reload. Same gun, more or less, just a slightly worse reload, and you can kind of look at it like that. Or this has more advanced ammunition, so it's better in an up tier, whatever. And then finally, you're going to want to have yourself with a plane, at least in ground realistic. Now in ground AB, planes don't really matter in your lineup, so you can just fill it up with tanks all willy-nilly as you want. But the common thread, as I mentioned before, is getting yourself with similar BR vehicles. As soon as you get yourself with, for example, with this lineup, if I were to put a 7.3 BR vehicle in here, the Leopard 1 for example, I will be facing all post-World War II vehicles, Cold War vehicles, I mean to say, with Heat FS and everything that will just totally annihilate and make the, for example, Jagdtiger's armor a moot point. This is one of the most feared and most heavily armored and armed vehicles of the entire Second World War, and it would matter for nothing once it has Heat FS going right through it, like the armor is essentially worthless, because at that point it would be. So really just make sure that your BRs are fairly similar. Again, you're going to want to have a good horizontal integration. I think with my top tank set up here, as you can see, I've got pretty decent 8.7, so on and so forth. It's pretty decent at that BR for me. And when it comes to other things like Air Arcade, for example, don't hate me. I play Air Arcade sometimes, especially at top tier. It's more or less kind of a free-for-all. You're just going to want to put your best things. But again, the thing that you are always going to look at is just how similar your BRs are between all of your planes. Make them as close as possible, or tanks, make them as close as possible, because as soon as you have one outlier, again, the example that I'm going to use, the 2K versus the A1, you will be annihilated in that lower BR vehicle. Just take the higher BR vehicle out of your lineup until you can integrate a more horizontal BR lineup, so to speak. Buy the ones to the side of you, not up or down from you. Just really make sure that you have similar BR vehicles, and don't make a huge jump in the tech tree if you can help it. That's my number one advice. And also, one other kind of thing to note here are the tiers. These don't really matter at all. You can have some vehicles that are, not 7.7, but you can have some vehicles that are, X or Y BR that belong in rank 5, for example, and then rank 6 might have the same BR vehicle. Tanks or tiers don't really matter at all outside of research purposes. So if you use a rank 7 or rank 6, to research a rank 3, you're going to have a big research penalty for that, just the same as if you were to use these to try to research a rank 5 or rank 6 or 7, whatever the case may be. So just tiers don't really matter, but again, I have all that in videos below. Either way, let me know what you guys think. What's your ideal lineup? I want to know. These for me are just such fun planes, and realistically speaking, if you can get yourself as close of a lineup to this, 6.7 all around, then you will do very well. And of course, you might not be as flexible in an up tier, but you know what? You're going to have a much lower chance of being in that up tier than you would otherwise. Again, if you just kind of put a random anomalous tank of 8.0 BR with your 7.3s or 6.7, whatever. But again, let me know what you guys think, what your favorite lineup is in the comments below. I want to hear it. Tell me what you guys think about this video. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. This is kind of an off-the-cuff video, unscripted. But either way, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.